Hello YouTube, this is Richard, founder of ShortTermRentalSecrets.com and Airbnb Superhost. Today's video, I'm finally getting around to doing an actual product review of something you've heard me talk about a lot. It's really transformed my business and it's a no-brainer. It's dynamic pricing. I happen to use Beyond Pricing, I'm a huge fan, and I want to just show you exactly how easy it is to use, and let's get started. Come on over to the computer. All right, in case you don't know what Beyond Pricing is and you don't understand what dynamic pricing means, let's just give a real life example. You know how when you buy a plane ticket, the guy sitting next to you pays a totally different price? It could be higher, it could be lower, it could be based on like whether it's the last seat or the first seat and all of these other variables, and you don't quite understand what the algorithm is. That's what Beyond Pricing does for Airbnb and VRBO listings. So they take a look at all of the different supply in your zip code and they get really granular. So it's like specific to your neck of the woods, your neighborhood, maybe even your street. And they see how many listings are available on that given night. And then they take a look at what's called the demand. Is there surge pricing? We all know about Uber. Is there surge pricing? Is there a conference, a sporting event? Is there some concert? Is there a reason that they're seeing demand increase? And it balances those two things out so that you get the maximum amount of money per night in your business. Okay, so before I take a deep dive into the user interface and the dashboard, I just want to share with you the pricing, and it's pretty, simple and transparent. They'll give you a free month trial so you can test it. Their users on average make 10 to 40% more on their listings, and they only charge 1% of the earnings. So you're currently paying about 3% on Airbnb, and just imagine that your price goes up to about 4%. And then just taking a look at an actual example. So if you have a 2-night reservation at $125 per night with a $50 cleaning fee, that would be $300. Airbnb charges 3%, so your payout is $291. Now, Beyond Pricing takes 1% of that, so it only costs $2.91 for that booking, but in my experience, I'm seeing 40% revenue, so 1% is like something that's a no-brainer. I would do that all day long. Okay, so here we are at the important part. It's the dashboard, and here you can see some of my properties. They have a few different things that I want to draw your attention to. It's really easy to turn the syncing on or off. You can review the prices for your listing. We're going to go to that in a second. And then you can look at the market data that's like the stuff behind the scenes that goes into their algorithm so you can understand that. We're going to check that out too. But first, I just want to go over some of the top line metrics that they provide. They have a health score that basically is just tell you how well your listing is doing in their mathematical terms. And I want to talk about that. So in this particular case, I have a 93 for this property, and they say 100 is ideal. So we're doing well here. The booking percentage over the next 30 days, they don't want you to book too little or too much. Again, we're trying to maximize the amount of money per night, and some vacancy is okay, and they have tons of data about like when people book. So they think that 50% booking in the next 30 days is about right, and you can see in this particular case, I've got 53%. And then, based on their algorithms and data, they don't want you to have too many bookings in the next 90 days. They think 32% is just right, and you can see here I have 31. Now what I wanted to draw your attention to is a property that has worse health score, and it's 69. It shows 83% booking in the next 30 days and 62% in the next 32. This is where you need to get a little familiar with what this means and make adjustments accordingly. Now, this Bayfront cottage, this is the busy season, it's summer. So of course there's going to be more than 30% in the next 90 days, and of course there's going to be more than 50% in the next 30 days, and therefore I'm getting dinged on the health score. But since this is a cyclical place where there's like a seasonality to it, I'm okay with that. Let's turn to reviewing the prices. So, where there is no coloration around the number, those are the successful bookings. And if you click on it, you can see the day, this was 608, this is 602, and again, you can see that it changes every day. The following week, when you have something that's in the lighter blue, those are numbers below the base price, which is an input that you set. What is it that your starting point is? And then what is the minimum? Those are the only two things you have to set. Everything else is handled behind the scenes. And so when the number's below, and you'll see that in that light blue, you can hover over it and it'll tell you why. Here's my base price of $625. It's a summer season, so I guess they're increasing it by $56. The day of the week being a Sunday, it gets a reduction of $33. And then because the vacancy is less than 7 days away, they're predicting a price of $583. Now, conversely, when the number's above your base price, it gets that darker blue, and you can see that here. Here, our $625 base price, there's a seasonality factor of $51, and then the day of the week being a Wednesday, I get a $7 bump up, and so they're asking $683. And that's basically the way it works. You can see that I have what looks like a lot of vacancy. At first I was really uncomfortable with that, but I've tried Beyond Pricing. I've used it for, 18 months or so in many different properties, and I know it's generating much more income for me, so I trust it now. Uncomfortable, yes. Trust it, yes. So let's take a look at some of the data. Here are the charts. So this is your revenue per available night, and it's basically your occupancy for the month times your average daily rate. And if you recall, I had a really bad March this past year, but these things happen. Overall, I'm really pleased with how we've performed, and we're doing quite well. I would, of course, like to have higher occupancy, higher average daily rate, average night stay, I don't really care so much about, but revenue per available night, I'd like to get back up, and I think we're going to do just that as we come into our busy season. Market data. These are the things that they're using in their algorithms. So it talks about the neighborhood occupancy last year, and you can see it went to 80%, and then in January it was down to 52%. So, my 50% is sort of in keeping with what you see in the neighborhood. And then you can see their occupancy. A lot of people aren't booking that far out in advance, so it goes lower as you would expect. And then you see things like neighborhood pricing. The green line is my price. You can see I was way overpriced on Christmas relative to everyone else, but I think we did quite well. And then finally, they take a look at the hotels and their pricing in the neighborhood, which affects sort of Airbnb pricing. Like, what is a hotel getting? And we want to consider that relative to our Airbnb. So they do all these, fancy things with the algorithms. Ian, who's the founder and CEO, has a ton of experience. He's a quant guy. And he crunches all the numbers, and it's been an amazing investment for me and for others that I've recommended it to. I don't know anybody who said that it doesn't increase their income, although I do hear that it doesn't work in all of the locations that people have Airbnbs. I think not every international location. And I've spoken, there's actually an interview where we learned a little bit more about him, so check that out. And he says that they cover about 85% of the marketplace, so while they don't cover 100%, they're covering more and more over time, and if it doesn't work for you now, come back and check it in the future. Again, it's really easy to use. You basically put in two numbers and it does the rest. You put in your base price, you put in your minimum price, check out what it looks like, make sure you're comfortable with it, and give it that free month. You have nothing to lose and a lot to gain. So I can't stress this enough. I think this is the single largest thing you can do to improve your revenue. We hear a lot of questions about how can I get more Airbnbs if I can't afford more property? Can I co-host? Can I do this? How can I go convince other people to let me list their place? And that's all great, and I love the entrepreneurial spirit, but if you're not using dynamic pricing, this is probably the single biggest thing you can do to immediately improve your revenue and your profitability. So I highly recommend it. Again, we've got a link below, so if you want to get started, I'd appreciate if you click the link. Ian does give us some commission, but I'm doing this because I really believe it. It works really well for me and everyone else who's tried it. And if you want to get started, click on the link below. It's super easy. And let me know your thoughts. Go ahead and leave feedback once you've tried it. Share with us how it's working for you. I'd love to hear that. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks so very much. Have a great day and happy hosting.